car was built by Laclede Car Company in St. Louis. It was one of 3 streetcar builders there at that time. St. Louis Car Company, who built a number of the other cars that we have down here, Laclede and a company by the name of Brown and White. And we know from an article in the Street Railway Journal in the early 1890s, the 3 companies were cranking out an average of 350 cars a month. This was a huge business, and they had specialized power tools for building a lot of the components of these cars. And the misconception people have is they did everything by hand. No, they didn't. They were tooled up to crank these things out. We have to do the work now frequently by hand because we don't have the tools that they did. They no longer exist. There were about 8 different kinds of wood in this car. It had Georgia longleaf pine in the main sill beams. Cross beams were white oak. Vertical framing was ash. Sheathing was poplar. The floor decking was hard rock maple. The clear story, which is that very curved side part of the ceiling, was bird's eye maple veneer on plywood, which was something new in that day. And the trolley board was white pine. And they used each wood for a specific reason. And we replace like wood with like wood wherever we can. The only exception we're going to do to that, we need some new posts in areas, and we're going to have to use white oak rather than ash because we can't get the heavy ash pieces because of a beetle which has infested the ash trees in the Midwest and put an embargo on the larger stuff moving out of the States. You can see here the veneer where we're attaching that, ironing stuff out, getting bubbles out of the wood and everything. And the interior will look just like it did back in the early 1900s. Cost of restoring this car is about $500,000. And when we pointed that out to the State Historical Fund, their comment was, gee, that's cheap. And what they meant by that was it was far less than they thought it would be. Reason being is there's thousands of hours of donated labor into this car. I've put in 30,000 miles of travel researching these things, talking to other museum people and everything, so I could get smarter on it. And as I work on it, I'm still learning things. And if I live to be 200, I'll still be learning stuff on these things because it's like a 20-ton piece of furniture. Mortise and tinion joints and everything. These things were really built to last, fortunately, and that's why this has survived. For years, it was on a property off 115 owned by a man by the name of Mr. Dotson. Bought the car body in '32 for like $50, and then his son donated it to us back in the 1980s, for which we are very grateful. He passed away a few years ago, so maybe he can still look in on us and hope we're doing the right thing. I hope so. The curtains here, as you can see, were a chocolate brown cotton with a gold starburst pattern silk screened onto it, and it was 2 layers of fabric laminated together. The outside layer was impregnated with vinyl chloride and then set by heat, and it was called Panasote. It's a predecessor to Naugahyde, and it's the hardest thing to replace on these cars. We have not been able to find a source for that. We're probably going to have to go to overseas. The glass on the car, the passenger window top pieces were etched. The very top piece windows up in the clear story are what's called glue-chipped glass. And you notice it has a fern-like pattern on it, and that is done by using hot hide glue. And it's a very old process. We have the material to do that, and we're going to duplicate it. The one thing that will not be done, the glass that will go in this car and the sides and top and everything will not be original. The original glass will be preserved, and the replacement, which will be identical except that it will be tempered for safety reasons, and then we use laminate safety glass in the front and rear of the car. The car is being rebuilt according to what's the American Passenger Transportation or Transit Association standards for heritage and vintage cars, where we do a lot of safety upgrades that the public will not see but will still be there for their benefit.